This is the Ready, Set Podcast. And here's your host, me, Joe Persinger.
Hey, how was your week, you fucks? We are cruising through the middle quarter of this year. Wow! How's you cut that music for me? Is it really almost July already? Wow! This year is going faster than an asteroid on PEDs spinning on its y-axis while Santa smokes crack on the asteroid's southern pole. Wow! What the hell just happened there? We've got another packed show for you this week. Should I do another one of these? What the hell? It's been a few weeks. We are so packed this week. So packed. How packed is this show, Joe? We are packed tighter than your girlfriend's apartment when she moved her side dick onto the couch under the guise that she is a good person, that he is a good person and is only helping out this poor soul. And he happens to be 6 feet tall and built like a homeless lumberjack. But you're open-minded. You voted for Hillary Clinton, even though you initially supported Martin O'Malley. You constantly tell yourself, I'm a bleeding heart liberal. I care about the little guy. Well, apparently, you're a populist too. But when the initial awkwardness ends, your initial suspicions disappear. Hey, he's a nice guy. He's looking out for me and my girlfriend. Why would he make such a selfish decision? More importantly, why would she? And you think this as you walk into the apartment to find your new roommate in a thigh-high buffet that your so-called girlfriend is serving up like a Dairy Queen on a summer's night. You unsheath your sword and challenge the oversized soy boy to a duel. But now there's a problem. You're in 18th century Venice being chased down by an agent of the Inquisition. What the hell, you think? As you're surrounded, you do a backflip onto a horse passing by. You gallop, slicing away at the various agents attempting to pull you off the horse. And you're on a roll, slicing and dicing. The streets begin to fill with blood of your enemies attempting to take you down. Another 2 Inquisitor agents emerge from a small alley. You're not deterred. You backflip off the horse, sticking the landing. How is this possible, you think? With your free hand extended, you dare them to challenge you by motioning your 4 fingers in a very slight bending motion, beckoning them to charge at you. The first one charges and you slice his left arm in half. You then kick him in the nuts while driving your sword through the middle of his back. The next guy attempts to sneak up behind you, but you drive your sword right through his face without even turning around or taking a step. The fog lifts from the bloody stone streets. The sound of stepping on puddles of blood echoes behind you like a fresh rain has just passed over. They got what they deserved, you think, and say aloud. As the fog clears, you're staring at your dead roommate and what's left of your other roommate. Yep, we're that packed today. Here's what we got. Democrats hard slide to the left. Well, I think we actually have an official theme song for them.
To the left. Take it back now, y'all. One hop this time.
I've also got a few notes on both debates nights, and if you're a lazy fuck, I've got a dog breed that'll be perfect for you. A lesbian U.S. soccer player's extreme hypocritical political views are on display, and I've got a message for her. Also, a Florida man and a Florida woman segments make a comeback. My home state, Illinois, is starting to morph into a 90s version of Amsterdam. A Kansas City radio host is suspended for innocuous comments about Andy Reid, and I've got some unwanted advice for the Osbornes after they denounced Trump using Crazy Train on Twitter, a Twitter video a few days ago. And in the staff report, we're going to talk about 2 Supreme Court cases and an activist judge who blocked Trump from doing his job. This is your one-stop shop current events and politics podcast. If society's a joke, then we're just here for the first set. Are you ready? Set podcast! All right, well, just in case you've been living under the rock for the last week, apparently Wayfair took a contract with the U.S. government to, they are going to give beds to all these people sitting in some of these detention centers down on the border. So the employees found out about this, and they basically told their CEO that you shouldn't be, what is this saying? You shouldn't be buddy-buddy. You should be, I don't know what I wrote. You shouldn't be helping kids. You should donate the profit. You should donate the profits from this sale or not do the deal. And the guy that owns Wayfair basically said, fuck off, just go out and protest. And the Wayfair employees were like, fine! And then really quick before I jump into these debates, which I'm really not going to break down too much here, but definitely want to talk about them. I've got a message for that leftist women's soccer player, Megan Rapinoe. Shut up and respect your country and your president and just kick the ball. And by the way, I'm not sure if anyone else has said this publicly, but I'm going to. You can't have it both ways. If you're upset with the way your country is treating you to the point you're protesting on an international stage, quit playing soccer and take an activist role. You're embarrassing yourself with this kneeling stunt, and it's so transparent that this is about you and you maximizing your once every 4 years, 15 minutes of fame, and it's cringeworthy. Classic progressive Democrat wanting everything both ways. Why hasn't anyone in the media asked her why she's wearing a U.S. soccer jersey if she's protesting the flag and the national anthem? If she feels so strongly about this symbol that represents that jersey she's currently wearing, why wear the jersey? I'll wait. We'll just leave it right there. So debate night, number 1. What a fucking snooze fest. Let's see here. Some of the notes that I took here, kind of interesting. I noticed right off the bat that Amy Klobuchar looked really nervous. She basically spent most of the time punching up to Donald Trump, which I don't really know if that's a strategy that's going to work for anyone. I mean, everyone knows he's a counterpuncher. It almost sounds like it's a fight fire with fire strategy, but I mean, it's not going to work for a politician. Beto, for some reason, decides to speak Spanish. I'm sure all of you have seen that. Instead of answering the question, I'm just going to speak Spanish. Oi. What did he say? He wants to up the corporate tax rate to 28%. I believe he wants open borders. Let's see, what else do we have here? I just kind of took some highlights. I didn't really want to, break both nights down. That would be the whole podcast probably. And by all means, this has been the news for the last 3 days. God knows I need to regurgitate all that crap. What else was interesting here? It looks like all the Democrats, it looks like they just want to take your guns. Here's the other one. Elizabeth Warren and Bill de Blasio want to abolish private health insurance. And this is just mind-boggling because, again, I'm jumping ahead here, but on the second debate night, all of them raised their hands and said they want to abolish private health insurance. Now, I believe Kamala Harris came back the next day and said, I didn't understand the question. Okay, flip-flopper. But anyway, back to the first night. We have Bill de Blasio, who basically spent the night pandering to, what do I have here? Talking down to the white working class and clearly pandering to minorities, the minorities and the working class. So idiots trying to have it both ways. And then let's not forget that because those debates were held in Miami, he went and talked to some of the Cubans in Miami and then started quoting Che Rivera. So whatever, Che Rivera. I can't even say his name. Either way, he's done. Just worry about your own city, pal. Julian Castro had a really nice showing. He basically wants to legislate equal pay. I don't know how a president's going to legislate. A lot of these, this is what's funny. A lot of these, it just makes no sense. I mean, even the Kamala Harris, again, I'm jumping ahead. We'll save that for later. But a lot of these legislators think they can legislate as president. I don't understand that. I'm just going to assume they believe that, or what they're saying is that they will sign it into legislation. I don't know. I'll try to give them the benefit of the doubt. He wants, and that's the other thing about Julian Castro. He's totally pandering to transgender and other minorities. What did he say? He wants trans rights to surgery through health insurance. I think that's correct. He wants to appoint federal judges in rural states like Alabama and Mississippi to push Roe versus Wade onto a state that doesn't even want it. That sounds like a great way to win a red state. Hey, all of you people that voted for something by a majority, I'm going to send someone in from the federal government to undo everything you just voted for. Oh, yeah, that's a great way to win flyover country. He's pandering to Hispanics and moderates. He wants zero tolerance. What? I don't know what that. Oh, yeah, I see. He wants zero tolerance and wants to repeal Section 1325. And that actually, when he brought that repealing 1325, that became a really big point in the debate. And I think he started challenging Beto and a few other guys about if they would get rid of that. That was basically it. I mean, you had Tulsi Gabbard was basically like a robot. She wants Medicare for all. And she was totally contradicting Trump on Iran. And yeah, that was really, she's basically a Russian shill. And I'm actually going to touch on another Russian shill named Abby Martin, who was on Joe Rogan's podcast earlier this week. And surprise, surprise, she likes Tulsi Gabbard. Huh. Elizabeth Warren was boring. I mean, she's lackluster. I mean, every time she talked, it was like when Charlie Brown would listen to an adult. But she got a lot of media attention. I mean, a lot of that was because she was a front runner on the first stage. Jeez, I'm already getting bored talking about this. All right, what do we got for the second night here? I don't have a lot of notes, so don't worry. But yeah, all of these second night campaign candidates want to abolish private health care. Kamala Harris, she had great stage presence. Actually, I believe we have a clip of her talking about her to Joe Biden. So everyone's probably heard this clip. Let's just play it so we have some context.
And, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me. So I will tell you that on this subject, it cannot be an intellectual debate among Democrats. We have to take it seriously. We have to act swiftly. As Attorney General of California, I was very proud to put in place.
That. So what's very interesting here is I remember whenever she hit her applause lines, you could always just see it in her eyes that she's thinking, crushed it. And you got to give her credit for punching to Joe Biden. Now, I don't know what the hell Joe Biden was doing. He had a great retort, a great argument. He started out telling, hey, and I kind of agree with Joe Biden here. You're not going to hear me say that too often. But her next point was basically, she was trying to present this as Joe Biden being against this busing policy. But what the actual case is Joe Biden didn't want the federal government mandating to states, hey, you need to do this because, he's not a progressive, even though he claims to be. He doesn't, and I totally agree with that. I'm a pro-states' right guy because he basically goes on to say, hey, it was your city council that was putting you on a bus and sending you to a school. You're mischaracterizing my position, which is exactly what she was doing. And then as he started to fight back, he basically goes, oh, never mind, my time is up. Joe Biden's done. I don't know what the hell this guy thinks he's doing. He just doesn't, like Marianne Williamson, he just does not look like he belongs on that stage. And that lady she's got a lot of Republican fans right now. I mean, she looked like a rookie. She doesn't look like she belongs. She looks like she was put on the wrong group. She should have been on the first night. But I don't know, fake news NBC. I mean, she looked like she was completely out of her league, honestly. And I will say this debate had its moments, but it still lacks energy. It was almost like watching the same show with a different cast. The whole party wants to give illegals free health insurance. I mean, it's insane. And this is kind of when in 2017, when Trump got elected and they were trying to repeal Obamacare, one of the biggest knocks on him from Democrats was that they were trying to say Republicans want to take your health care away. Well, that's interesting. Now, a few years later, it's not only do Democrats want to take your health care away, they want to give it to a bunch of people that don't even reside in this country. It's insane. Completely insane. And we still got another year and a half to go. Well, not a year and a half. Either way. All right, plowing ahead here, folks. Plowing ahead. All right, so NASA announced on June 27th that it will launch a life-hunting rotor craft called Dragonfly towards Saturn's huge moon Titan in 2026. If all goes according to plan, Dragonfly will land on the hazy, frigid satellite in 2034. Wow, it'll take 8 years to get there? Woo! And then spend several years flying around gathering a variety of data and snapping amazing photos of the exotic landscape. That's, 8 years. Man, can you imagine having to travel somewhere and it's going to take 8 years to get there? Greg, I'm telling you, this is what's going on. We're going to send you on an exploration. You're going to love it. It's just going to take 8 years to get there. But what if I want to come back? You can't. You're stuck. I mean, I'm all for this exploration, but my God, 8 years to get somewhere. Let's see, what do we have here? So basically, this article just goes on to talk about, this Mars helicopter they're going to deploy on Mars in, I believe, sometime in the 2020s. And that, well, here, I'll just quote the article. Dragonfly and the Mars helicopter may be just the beginning. If the two drones perform well, rotorcraft could begin leaving Earth in relatively large numbers. We envision helicopters opening doors to new types of exploration on Mars. Harvard Grip flight control and aerodynamics leader for the Mars helicopter said in March during a presentation with NASA's Future in Space Operations Working Group. In the future, we could imagine doing things like engaging in regional exploration using multiple helicopters, or going into inaccessible areas or biologically sensitive areas using small helicopters. That's pretty interesting stuff. I mean, we've gone from having, these rovers to now to flying drones on another planet. I mean, small steps, people. Small steps. All right, moving ahead here. We've got our OJ update. What do you got for us this week, OJ?
Hey, Twitter world. I woke up this morning, they were talking about Michael Jackson's 10th anniversary of his death. Got me thinking about Michael. I met Michael, it seemed like 100 years ago. His family moved down the hill from
God, what's with that fucking wind?
And I'd see him around. I actually got to be good friends with Jermaine. Years later, I was playing tennis in my backyard with a neighbor when he got word that his nephew was sent home from summer camp because they found out he had cancer, and I guess it had something to do with insurance, and they couldn't have him at the camp.
The 90s were a crazy time.
Something about that, so he came up with the idea. He called some of his friends. He was a celebrity. He called some of his friends. I called Michael. He was real hot there to see if he would help, and we got together to help.
OJ is now showing a photo.
A camp for kids with cancer. Now, I know there are probably...
All right, you can cut that, Klaus. Good old OJ. I got to tell you. He's been giving us his input on the Dem debates. Those are the last two tweets following, or the tweets following this one. But we'll touch on that later. He really didn't have much to say. But all I got to say is, the juice is loose. All right, so in Lakeland, Florida, a woman was arrested after turning in her estranged husband's gun a day after he tried to run her over. Wow, the madness. What happened? Maybe we should start with that. So apparently these two had a divorce hearing, or they were at divorce court and got into an argument afterwards. This is basically one of those things where if you put your two fingers up, you can say love and hate are about that far apart, because literally at that point, when you're on those opposite extremes, what's the difference between love and hate? And proof is in the pudding. They can't stay away from each other, and they start arguing. Why? If you're done with someone, you're done. Anyway, they started arguing, and I guess she felt threatened, decided to call the police, and he rear-ended her car. So, safe to assume, hey, this lady, she's in fear for her life. I think that's a little bit of an overstatement, but hey, I've been rear-ended before. I can understand the emotional pitfall or hole you'll go down to if you're just not mentally stable. Anyway, so her reaction to this is, well, I need to turn his guns into the police. Now, he doesn't live with her. He lives separately, I believe. So she gained access to his apartment, went and got his guns, and turned them into the police. But then she got arrested for some reason. But Joe, how is this possible? Well, apparently she walks into the police and says, hey, I went into my husband's apartment and stole his guns, and here they are because I'm afraid he's going to kill me. And the police officer she talked to was like, well, that's armed robbery, and you're under arrest. And I believe what happened was this put everybody in, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but certain pro-women groups were a little up in arms about it. So, for instance, we have Democratic State Representative Anna Escamani said on Twitter that Irby, that's the wife in this situation, should not be prosecuted for protecting herself and her family. Again, these are very great points. Now, just to go over what exactly happened, basically, she entered her husband's apartment without his permission, took the guns to the station over fears he wasn't going to turn them in himself. I did not know where the guns were located. I had to search around the apartment for them so I could bring them to you, she told the police. But the officer speaking to Irby reportedly responded, so, are you telling me that you committed armed burglary? Now, here's the kicker. Of course, in this situation, you'd think, yeah, she's got every right to defend herself. Her husband has guns. He already made a vicious attack on her via a car, so I can understand how you can make, the escalation of steps. There's just one problem. The man is in jail. That's why she was able to break into his house, because he wasn't there. He wasn't going to be there. He is literally in jail. And she's afraid that a guy in jail is going to get his guns in his apartment and kill her. Please. I think the cops see through what was going on here. This is just another petty attempt by a petty wife trying to stick it to her husband while he's in jail. You committed armed robbery. You can try to hide behind the fact that this is for your safety, but you're safe. The guy's in jail. This would be like trying to take out a restraining order while someone's in jail. If you brought that in front of a judge, they'd kick you out of the courtroom and then probably arrest you for wasting their time. All right, what's the next one? Oh, we got a Florida man. Let's break into that one. This one's actually kind of funny. So a Florida man grills burgers during Wendy's robbery. Florida officials say they are looking for a hamburglar who broke into 2 restaurants, fixed himself some food, and then stole some money. Sounds like quite the night out, if you ask me. I mean, there's a really quick way to find this guy. You canvass all the restaurants in the area and grill the line cooks. Apparently this guy had a tattoo on his arm. And if he's pretty, everyone can cook a burger, but I mean, you're just going to walk into if you've ever worked with heavy industry grills or anything like that, they're very intimidating. So the fact that this guy was able to walk in to the restaurant and just flip on it tells me he's got experience in the industry. So you just start going around to all the restaurants and start looking at the line cooks. Let me see what I did there. Actually, I'm giving this guy way too much credit. He's probably unemployed. If this hamburglar was smart, he'd get his ass out of town. But we all know he's probably eating his burgers on his couch and thinking about where he's going to spend his money before he robs another store. All right, plowing ahead. So this week, a woman named Abby Martin was on Joe Rogan's podcast. For those of you that don't know, Abby Martin is a 9/11 conspiracy theorist who used to host a show called Breaking the Set on the Russian network, RT America, from 2012 to 2015, working from their Washington, D.C. bureau. So if you heard me allude to the fact that she was a Russian shill, Russian, for those that don't know, Russian TV is state TV. So for those of you that think Fox News is state TV and that's a funny joke, haha, no, Russian TV, RT TV is literally state TV. I don't know of any. Okay, well, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe there is. I don't know of any NBC, ABC, any American broadcast company that is in Europe. And if they are, it's not state TV. There's a difference. It's a private entity. This is literally the state of Russia running a broadcast company. Anyway, she used to work for them. And then watching the podcast, I think she said something about sanctions kind of putting an end to her career for RT, and now she basically does, what is it called? The Empire Files, and I believe you can find that somewhere on YouTube, buried deep, deep, deep into pages that they say are hard to find for whatever reason, and we all know what that is all about. So anyway, I took a few notes on this person. Here we are. So Abby Martin is basically a Russian shill. She's a Tulsi Gabbard supporter. She was also pro-Bernie. She is anti-Clinton, and I don't know what that says. I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to expand on this next week, if I remember. Because there's a few good things on there that I would like to respond to. But one of the things she did say was Google is a conservative company, and she bases that on its investment partners. So you have like the Koch brothers, ALEC, there's offshore monies. It's funded by the Federalist Society. And at first I was like, well, that's interesting. But then you realize that what she's doing is conflating something. So all of this sounds like it's done from the top, meaning the CEO and from that upper level side of management. Because, when you get to those high levels of a company, it's, you're running day-to-day operations, but the intricacies of what you're doing is, when you're a company like Google, is you're trying to stay in touch with lobbyists You want to make sure, laws are being passed in your favor, written so they favor your business for whatever reason. So the CEOs, those top lieutenants, that's at Google. That's basically what their responsibilities are, or one of them, I should say. And why they have partnered with all these people is they're trying to keep everyone on the yes for deregulation side. And like I said, this is the responsibility of the upper echelons of upper management. Now, this doesn't really reflect, I would say, maybe mid-management and down, because as you see from, directors to mid-level managers and so on and so forth, there's a lot of progressive liberal values in that aspect of the company. So for this Abby Martin lady to sit there and say, "Oh, well, it's a conservative company because of X," well, it's just dishonest. What is that? It's intellectually dishonest. That's conflation. And like I said, it does not change the fact that the foot soldiers in Google and YouTube, basically halfway down the company, you know what I'm trying to say here, is there's a huge swath of people that are not in upper management that are just leftists. And I really think I'm going to have to play some of her sound bites and then respond to them. I think that's probably really going to be the only way to get my point across here. But the main thing I took away from what I watched is that she's basically one of these people that conflates. I mean, she's such a leftist. She's basically running congruent with whatever Russia's doing. I mean, it's insane because she flip-flops all over the place. Anyway, I'm probably not doing anyone any injustice by rambling on about this. I'm going to have to probably put this together in a way where it makes more sense of kind of what I'm rambling about still. So anyway, I will make a note to myself, and we'll break this down easily for you next week. All right, so we're going to plow right ahead here into our next segment. I'm a dog person. Are you a dog person? I'm not a cat person whatsoever. But there are a lot of lazy people out there who like dogs. So are you one of these lazy fucks? Are you one of these people left in our society that wants to laze around, watch Netflix, eat out constantly, subsidize your life via entitlement programs, and go out of your way not to watch your kid, but you still want a dog? Is that you? Well, I've got 2 dog breeds here that are sort of perfect for you. So number 1. It's going to be the Basset Hound. This short, stocky, little-legged... Hold on. Is this a dog? Or are we talking about George Costanza? Well, this little bastard isn't going to make you run that 5K Savage run your extreme bro friends keep bothering you to sign up for. These big-eared bastards are calm. They're easygoing. Like that little stoner friend you have that's constantly agreeing to do whatever you want to do, but as long as he can get high. But then this starts getting old. You used to go to professional sporting events all the time, but now your stoner friend refuses to go because I can't smoke blunts there. Plus, my lazy boy chair is way more comf. Well, after you kick his ass for being so lazy, he unnecessarily shortened your word. You suggest he invest in a vape. Anyway, like your stoner buddy, this hound does need a walk every day. Or what about the English bulldog? Sure, they're maybe a little expensive, but these super sweet, low maintenance, low energy. Wait, is this a dog or Jeb Bush? Anyway, this wrinkly guy is a perfect indoor dog for you lazy persons. Apparently, if it's too hot or it's too cold, the tubby bastard doesn't do so good outside. It's got a breathing problem. Like your ex-girlfriend, they don't require a lot of exercise. They're very predictable. And they just want to lay on the couch all day watching Netflix and eating tubs of ice cream while trying to figure out why that asshole she fucked on a first date won't call her back. And then when he does, he bangs her, treats her like shits, and then she comes running back to you. But like an idiot, you take her back. After all, you're an insecure bastard. And the sex is great in the beginning, but then she starts nagging you. When a week earlier, right before you banged her after that lobster dinner, she went into how all that nagging and pettiness is now behind her. Well, great, you think. I could have hooked up with that 10th spot, Emily Anarancia. But instead, I'm stuck at a yard house with this bulldog face. So yeah, the English bulldogs are great. All right. Plowing ahead here. Are you a fan of Billie Holiday, Louis Armstrong, Aretha Franklin, maybe Ray Charles, Sir Elton John, Janet Jackson, Nirvana, Eminem, maybe Guns N' Roses? Well, I got some bad news. Several prominent bands, like the ones I just listed, and musicians have taken action against Universal Music Group, UMG, for a $100 million class action lawsuit over a fire that destroyed thousands of recordings and master tapes. Yee. Well, that's not good. So a warehouse fire destroyed these master recordings for artists like Tom Petty, Tupac Shakur, and the ones that I listed. This massive company, Universal, actually Universal Music Group is just a subsidiary. It's part of Universal. Never bothered to digitize or, make any copies of these physical copies. I guess they wouldn't be masters then, but wouldn't you want a backup? Even a digitized one? And Universal is definitely not helping its case, publicly at least, by filing for a massive insurance payout, and sealing the file, and then keeping the artists in the dark about their lifelong lost work. This corporate greed, I'd say, is why these bubbles of socialism keep popping up in our society. Look, I'm not really going to get into this. I almost feel like that's a theme of the day so far. But the lawyers in this class action lawsuit say their artists are owed up to 50% of that recoupment. Well, good luck with all of that. That's all I got to say. So the Kansas City Chiefs seem to be in the midst of a drama-filled offseason. Well, like you say, drama-filled last few days. So it looks like Tyreek Evans is being investigated by the NFL for hitting his... actually, I think for child abuse, and allegedly child abuse, we'll say. So this has caused the Kansas City Chiefs to suspend him from all team activities. And then, what is this? WHB 810, they have a sports radio host named Kevin Keitzman, I think I'm saying that right, apologized for comments he made earlier in the week about Chief Coach Andy Reid's family. And the quote was, "Andy Reid does not have a great record of fixing players. He doesn't. Discipline is not his thing. It did not work out particularly well in his family life, and that needs to be added to this. As we're talking about the Chiefs, he wasn't a great at that either. He's had a lot of things go bad on him, family and players." So in context, I guess he's kind of talking about Andy Reid not really being the right person to kind of get Tyreek, I forgot the guy's name, I think it's Tyreek Hill, right? Tyreek Hill on the right path back to success, if you will. So the radio station suspended him for those comments. Now, call me cynical, but I don't find anything wrong with this guy's quote. I mean, what did he really say? You know what? Let's read back the quote just so we're all on the same page here. Here's the quote. "Andy Reid does not have a great record of fixing players. Still don't see anything wrong with that. He doesn't. Discipline is not his thing. So far, so good. It did not work out. God, if I could only read, right? It did not work out particularly well in his family life, and that needs to be added to this." Okay, I can see what he's saying. As we're talking about the Chiefs, he wasn't really great at that either. He's had a lot of things go bad on him, family and players. God, off the top of my head, I don't really remember the Donovan McNabb thing ending too well. The Terrell Owens thing didn't end too well. I mean, I think he might have a point here. Is this radio station an official partner locally with the Chiefs? Because that would make more sense. Greg, get the program director on the phone for whatever station K-Squared works at. He's done in this town. Right away, sir. And Greg, take this $50 and buy Andy some flowers. He's a bit sensitive. But if that's not the case, what is this? This is another example of our society being soft. Ah, that makes sense. So I'm going to riff here. I'm going to irresponsibly speculate on what probably didn't happen, which ironically is most likely what happened. Did that even make sense? Wait, yeah, it did. Maybe Andy Reid was listening to the radio and complained to his boss. Possibly. But if that guy is listening to a radio show about his football team in the middle of the day, he shouldn't be a head coach. The station chief is a liberal bitch. This is probably the case, but I doubt that's who ratted out the radio man. I doubt that's who ratted out the radio man to the Chiefs. Because why would she be listening and caring about sports? An employee of the Chiefs was listening to the show saw the radio man left a small crack in the door and ripped it so wide open the door came off the hinges. Bingo, bitch. This is what I would put my money on. The guy works for the Chiefs, listens and monitors the radio shows, whichever it is, and here's the quote. I read you. As the words leave the radio man's mouth and the final words are processed in his soy boy brain, he realizes something. I can make a difference here. And I'm not talking about this in the context of how people were born in the 80s used to deal with it. And what I mean by that is, you reach out to this person, you explain your perception of the reality to the opposite party, hear what they have to say, they listen to what you have to say, you hear what they have to say, and you go your separate ways. Hoping at the very least you've made a difference in the way that person approaches the situation next time. But this fucking guy takes it to the Nazi extreme. I must have his scalp. It's the only way I can get any validation with my peers in real life, or IRL as they like to say, and online. These fucking centennial morons are ridiculous. They're shooting up schools, championing socialism, fucking their students, and freaking out online over words. I'm starting to get fired up right now. Words. They're just words. This call-out culture is nothing but bullshit wrapped in authoritarian Nazism. And that's the true irony to this situation. Using Nazi tactics to fight a non-existent boogeyman in the name of democracy. Huh? What? Antifa is a living embodiment of the point I'm trying to make here. And just yesterday there was another, brouhaha in Portland where the cops did absolutely nothing. So what is Antifa? Here it's anti-fascist. We're going to fight fascism with fascism. Huh? What? Do you morons not understand? To the silent majority, that's mostly moderates on the left and moderates on the right, centrists of the same kind, how stupid and childish you look and sound? Stunts like this is why you'll be calling Trump your president for the next 5 years, bitch. But here's what this is also. This goes to what I said in episode 1. I think about people not wanting to hear the truth. What did the radio man say? Not verbatim, but what was his message? That Andy Reid's lack of discipline at home might possibly translate to how he runs his football team, and that he won't find success with a player who's had issues in the past? It's the truth. Worst case scenario, it's a little insensitive. I've seen a guy who can calculate how to send a rocket to the moon, but can't offer to buy a girl a drink, let alone talk to her. I've met people who are responsible for a company's division that has $1 to $3 million of cash and inventory passing through it, yet they can't manage the finances in their own life. So at a bare minimum, I get that. But suspending the guy for telling the truth? Go fuck yourself. Seriously, go fuck yourself. So a private equity firm with a Danish founding family that used to own Lego is going to be buying Merlin Entertainment for $5.9 billion. I believe this is dollars. Oops, that's the wrong one. So the Danish billionaires are going to buy Merlin Entertainment, which owns Madame Tussauds, and basically Merlin also is the London Eye, the Alton Towers, and Chessington Adventures. It's basically, this is a pretty big deal. I mean, they have, so they got a bunch of, oh my God, they're all over Australia. Yeah, so Merlin Adventures is going to be Legoland, which I guess is probably why this Danish company with the Lego family invested in this is, they're getting their own shit back. But they got a lot of stuff here. Right here in Orlando, actually, they have the Eye. I think they have the one in London. I want to say, Vegas as well. This is a pretty big deal. Unfortunately, I am very... I can't even speak English right now. I can't even just talk in general. But all I really have to say to that is score 3 points for capitalism. You think this is going to happen in China? Cuba? It's a rough day today, folks. Capitalism always wins, bitch. I hate being right. I really do. In fact, sometimes when Joe is wrong, it isn't the end of the world for me. In fact, I'll admit it. It sucks being wrong. But that's not always the case. Let's say this oracle within me comes to the conclusion the Chicago Bears won't win a division with Nagy as a rookie head coach. Do you think I was butthurt about Joe is wrong? My personal favorite. It happened 3 years ago. I'm watching TV. I see the escalator. I hear the stump speech. I hear about the wall. I'm intrigued. This is the policy and a similar idea, a platform I have had parallel thought with. And then I hear...
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. And some, I assume, are good people.
Well, after I heard that, my attention snapped out of it and said to the TV like it was a sentient being, well, that was fun while it lasted. Trump won the nomination about 11 months later and was elected president that November. But you knew that, and he is your president, bitch. Oh, you know what else is my favorite Joe is wrong statement? When Trump gets into office, all the media hate and crazy animosity will subside. Here's the thing. If I'm wrong, no one is dying on my watch. Hey, maybe the sausage gravy has an extra kick, or the agar fresca lacks that subtle hint of lime, but no one's fucking dying. But Joe! What about when operating heavy machinery? What, like driving a car? Look, bitch, I've got my black belt to the 16th degree doctorate in driving. You want to learn the road? Follow me and take some notes, you fuck. Now, here's the kicker. When Joe is right, that usually means I'm going to be missing out on something. Like the Cubs winning Game 2 of the NLDS in 2008. Here's a recreation of me driving to Evanston with my brother Steve on our way to the game. I'm telling you, Steve, this is the year. We've led the National League all year, the defense is solid up the middle, and they have pitching that eluded them 5 years ago. Ooh, she's got nice boobs. 4 errors and a Manny Ramirez-induced grand slam later, and that was the toughest car ride home I've had in the last 15 years. When Joe was right. Or there's my favorite 2006 Super Bowl.
Middle with the 15 to the 20, breaks free of the 25 to the 30, to the outside, 40, midfield, 40, 30.
It was at this point I looked to my dad and said, it's in the bag. When Joe was right. One more example. It's 2015. I'm packing my car against time as a huge snowstorm barrels down on the Windy City. The mission? Move me, my stuff, and my car to Orlando, Florida in the next 24 hours and get there before the Super Bowl kicks off. So I'm talking to my friends and discussing that weight of me moving again for the 4th time in 3 years. And when asked, do you think you're ever going to move back, Joe? I chuckled at the thought of it. Mostly, well, there was some personal stuff going on, so that played into my thought process. But in the overall sense, I just couldn't see myself coming back. I responded, I don't know. Honestly, no state taxes. It's 80 degrees all the time. Disney and Universal and the beaches are right there. Key West, Miami, the Bahamas. I can work with that. I mean, it's not like they're going to legalize weed in the next 5 years. Joe is wrong. And if weed being legal isn't breaking news for Illinois, well, guess what? Their governor, J.B. Pritzker, signed a $45 billion infrastructure bill, which is going to add a gas and cigarette tax, which will start on Monday. Illinois is really starting to turn into California light, if you will. So in order to pay for this $45 billion, they're going to add $1 to the cigarette tax, which is going to bump up is going to go up to $2.98 from $1.98. I assume that affects blunts as well. So just add $1 to tax for whatever you're buying right now in blunts, Ken. And then the 19 cent per gallon tax is going to double. So that means gas will be 48 cents a gallon in taxes. And it's funny. I really think so now when you go into the city of Chicago, the gas is going to, I remember when I grew up there, if gas was, we'll say $2 up in the suburbs, it was easily $2.40 down in the city. And I believe a lot of that was the city tax that was tacked onto it. So gas is going to be almost like 90 cents to $1 more just in Chicago per gallon. I mean, maybe that's an overestimate, but Jesus fucking Christ. Now, there's an upside to this, depending on where you fall on the gambling side of things, but it looks like they're going to be expanding gambling, including new casinos in Chicago, which is a really big deal considering, Al Capone used to run casinos back 100 years ago, and since they broke that party up, they basically said no more casinos in the city. So it's really interesting that the government of Illinois, the state government of Illinois is finally like, yeah, you know what, let's put some casinos down there. That's how desperate they are. For money, I should say. But hey, if you get a sports book in Wrigley Field, you build a nice, beautiful casino right on the lake, right next to Soldier Field. How great would it be? Go watch a football game, go sit in a sports book and watch some Monday Night Football right next to the skyline of Chicago. God, I'm telling you, if that city had weather like they have here in Florida, no one would live in California. They'd all be living in Chicago, and illegals would be getting treated just the same. Anyway, plowing ahead here. Sharon and Ozzy Osborne slammed Donald Trump for using Crazy Train without permission. For those that watched Debate Night 1, I believe there was fake news NBC. They can't get out of their own way. First, the DNC won't give Fox News any of these primary debates because they basically called it state TV. But they're okay with Rachel Maddow, NBC's opinion, cable news NBC, fake news NBC, their opinion host asking questions. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So anyway, there was some kind of sound issue going into the second half of the debate, and they had to go to commercial break. So Trump tweeted out this video that kind of spotlighted that, and then it just kind of went into a blackout, and then the riff and song for Crazy Train started playing. So that did not make the Osbornes too happy. So I just have a question for the Osbornes. What are you going to do? Sue him? You can't. He's the president of the United States. This is obviously a PR scheme to look woke to the progressive left, or just to the surrounding Los Angeles area, really. I swear, that state, not even, the whole West Coast is just a very liberal European socialist country. Think Germany without all the killing, but with just as much hate. But hey, you can legally purchase weed all along the West Coast. Think about that. You could travel through California, Oregon, Washington, on the road, and the last thing you have to worry about is getting pulled over, searched, questioned, and worst case, being arrested, and having your stash confiscated. That's the worst. Not getting detained, but getting your stash seized by the government. God! But if you wear a Trump hat, or any form of pro-Trump clothing, or with written materials, you'll be shot, robbed, and killed. Antifa, talk about an oxymoron, was granted permission to take over the streets on the last 8 months by the Portland mayor. They even took it over yesterday afternoon. No matter what happens, why this progressive jerk-off is ceding power to a group of mindless centennials who only listen to what comes out and into their phones. Wait, what? Huh? What did I just say? It's true. When these kids, whenever you try to engage with them with an eye-to-eye contact situation, it's like they don't understand what's going on. The only way they will ever be able to understand anything if it's coming out of that electronic device. Homelessness is taking over all these major cities on the left, LA, San Francisco, Seattle. These are all giant hubs for homelessness. Down the street here where I live by the Walmart, the homeless in that area used to congregate. I just realized Congress and congregate have similar root words. Congress and congregate. What if we called Article 1 the congregate? We are here live with congregate man Pickles David, a left-wing progressive from a small district in southern Arizona. Sir, are you for open borders, healthcare, illegal immigration? And you have even stated you'd rather give illegal aliens access to healthcare and start, excuse me, sir, instead of hard-working, tax-paying Americans. How do you plan to pay for this and sell it to flyover country and suburban America? The congregate man seems to be running out of the studio. Oh my! He's knocked out the sound guy with his mic pack, and, oh God, he's strangling my producer now. Is that a hemp rope you pulled out of your pocket? We're going to commercial. He's now spinning around like his top on the way to the door, knocking anyone out in his path with those glass dread beads in his hair. We'll be right back, folks. Yeah, I imagine it would be something like that. Anyway, these fucks would congregate by the intersection and switch off panhandling at the light. It was very similar to watching the debates for the last few nights. I would always wear sunglasses so I wouldn't have to make eye contact with these hobos. Eventually, these fucks moved a couch onto the side of the road. I mean, it was only a matter of time before they started barbecuing. So I thought this was an issue. See the asshole rant neighbor for, was that, a few weeks ago? But then when I see what's going on in these West Coast cities, suddenly the homeless problem here in Central Florida seems kind of trivialized. Why? I live in America, not some wannabe socialist country state pandering to illegals. Well, sort of, giving them benefits they shouldn't have. And to make matters worse, on the debate night 2, every single candidate, plus the 2 from the night before, said they want to give illegals health care while taking private health care insurance away from everyday Americans. Well, what was this originally about? Oh yeah, Ozzy and his shitty music. Jeez, how the hell did we get here? This is like driving to Chicago but taking a detour to Denver. I mean, who would do something like that? Right, Steve? I saw Ozzy live once. Well, I heard it from the parking lawn. This was in Alpine Valley, I believe. Ugh. Well, this is starting to rip open a wide open wound, or an old wound, I should say. We'll plow ahead. Okay, go fuck yourself, Ozzy. No one gives a shit. No one gives a shit that you're upset about the president using your music. You should be thanking Trump for giving this crappy, old, simply written music exposure. Seriously, just shut the fuck up, collect your royalties, and keep mumbling to yourself. And how the fuck have you lived in the USA, California especially, for all these years and retained your English accent? You're a phony and a fraud, and you should go fuck yourself. Well, it's quite a historic milestone for the United States overnight, going into Sunday. But it's, no big deal. A U.S. president stepping into North Korea for the first time ever.
The joint security area there, it comes down to a strip of stone about 16 inches wide. President Trump walked right up to that strip of stone on the south side with Kim on the north side.
We went and met at the line, and in meeting at the line, I said, would you like me to come across? He said, I would be so honored. And that's the way it worked out.
It is so laughable to see the media attempt to take this historical event and downplay it as President Trump cozying up to dictators. Oh, really? Where was this critical thought when Obama went to Cuba or sent a pallet of billions of dollars to Iran? Or what about the time he wagged his finger at Putin and said...
In early September, when I saw President Putin in China, I felt that the most effective way to ensure that that didn't happen was to talk to him directly and tell him to cut it out, and there were going to be some serious consequences if he didn't. And in fact, we did not see further tampering of the election process. But
I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't aware of the second part of that quote where he basically says they didn't see any Russian meddling. But why is our media trying to sit here and say after their God and Savior Obama said that there wasn't any Russian meddling? That's very confusing. But that's not the point I wanted to spotlight. Cut it out, Putin, or I'm going to sanction you. That's what he said. Well, that's really interesting. You are a very bad Putin. Well, I wonder what would happen if, Trump responded to, Putin in a similar fashion.
Coats came to me and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be.
Well, that's a shit show of truth and lies, so someone's lying there. The media would like to tell you it's Trump, but if you're listening to what Obama just said and what I just played you, him and Putin are in agreement, and now it's the intelligence agencies that are on the opposite side of the ball. There's just so much misinformation in this situation, I don't even know what's real anymore. Obama's saying that, the DNC hacks are in WikiLeaks' hands, and everything else they've seen at that point, or up to that point, doesn't really point to any of the Russians. Then the media and the intelligence communities, probably, one working in the same because one's leaking to the other, excuse me, starts this narrative about Russian hacking into our election. But I still can't get over the fact you have Obama saying publicly Russians, as far as we can tell, didn't do it. It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. I wonder if I'm the only one that has stumbled onto that. So how the hell is that any different? They both took a similar diplomatic position, and the Republican gets excoriated in the press. Excoriated, excuse me. But the press doesn't lean left. Oh, go fuck yourself. Ballistic missiles, nuclear tests, bellicose language towards the USA. This was all the norm between 2014 and 2017. Anyone remember North Koreans hacking Sony? Anyone notice that these tests stopped once obliteration, or fire and fury, as most of you remember it, was quoted? I remember when I heard that. When I heard Trump say they will see fire and fury, it's like, whoa. That's not the language presidents usually use. So here we have a president making strides to quell these out-of-control nations. He's improved the economy immensely. He's given the country tax cuts. North Korea has been checked. China doesn't know what the hell to do. But then we have the media, like Politico, writing this article peddling fake news. And when I'm saying fake news, I don't mean they're writing a blanket false article, which in some cases you do find. But they dress these articles that read like progressive liberals' wet dream, and to minimize everything that President Trump does. So here I got a perfect example for you, just in this specific article. And this is right out of the gate, President Donald Trump on Sunday took a step no other sitting American president had done before, crossing into North Korea with its leader Kim Jong-un, a theatrical gesture meant to kickstart stalled negotiations between the two countries. Anyone catch the fake news word there? A theatrical gesture? Here we go. It was a made-for-TV moment for the reality show groomed president that unfolded at the demilitarized zone between the North and South Korea. I mean, it's just like, what is the point of reading that? If this is an opinion piece, I have no problem with that. But I'm sorry, Anita Kumar, you need to speak the facts. If you want to write a column, write an opinion column. But if you're going to write an article, write the fucking article. This is simple fucking shit. Jesus Christ. All right, moving on here. So an Alabama woman was charged after losing her unborn baby in a shooting. Now, this is simple. There isn't any oppression going on. The Republican Party, or the state Republican Party in Alabama, isn't oppressing anyone. This is about one thing: responsibility. Do I have to get back on my soapbox again? What these centennials need to understand is attitude is everything. Do I have to actually break down like what happened in the story? Would that kind of help everyone out here? All right, let's do that really quick. Hold on, I'll go back here. After losing her child in a shooting, the woman has been arrested, despite not being the shooter. So essentially what was going on is, it looks like the father of the child was with a new woman. This pregnant woman seeked out the father of the child and his new girlfriend and got in an argument with them, and then that argument ended up her getting shot in the stomach and her losing her kid. So the outrage is basically about the fact that she got shot and is now being charged with some form of homicide or whatever it is. I don't know if it was homicide. So that's what everyone's kind of up in arms about. And that's why I say, this is about one thing: responsibility. And attitude is everything. Your attitude is a window into your way of life. It's an emotional presentation to who you are as a human being. It doesn't paint the whole picture, but it's akin to a Marshall Fields, Macy, or a Lord and Taylor using window dressing to bring bring people into their store. Or for you centennials who don't even know what a brick and mortar department store is, it's like when ads pop up on your phone to get you to, go onto Amazon and buy whatever item is popping up on your phone because you're talking to or about it to your friend with that Alexa thing right next to you. Do you think if the window scenes they produced had negative connotations, people would flock to the store? I mean, what if they were setting a scene with a mannequin becoming annoyed because the customer is too fat for a dress? I don't think that's going to bring anyone to the store. So if you're a mother, regardless of your race, and you would find yourself in the middle of a love triangle The last thing you're going to want to do is inject yourself into a hostile situation between your former lover, his current beau, and his current beau. Or someone would like to say his side bitch, but I don't know what the details are there. And, you know, when all these three parties are petty fucks, something's going to go wrong. And this lady did just that. She's pregnant. She has a responsibility to a human life she's growing in her body. And instead of recognizing that, she goes and seeks a petty argument, probably disturbing these two who are just minding their own business, and then gets shot in the stomach in the process. And this is clearly an attempt to kill the baby on the shooter's part, because she's a petty bitch. The shooter was absolved. Not sure how I feel about that. Not sure how you should feel about that. But there's probably a detail missing here. Case in point, don't approach anyone with the motivation of seeking out an argument. Trust me, I know this. If the police can establish you went out of your way to start an argument with two people who are just doing their own thing, and you end up getting choked out or shot, you're going to be held liable. I'll get off my soapbox now. So a restaurant franchisee made an impassioned argument on Tuesday against the left's push for a $15 an hour minimum wage, saying it would force him to fire employees and could put him out of business. So this is Larry Fox, who owns a restaurant group that maintains Hooter locations here in Florida and Alabama, wrote in a recent op-ed for the Wall Street Journal that he is panicked over the Democrats lobbying for a higher minimum wage. He told, so this is just to be clear, this is a Fox News article. He told Fox and Friends on Tuesday that his employees already make more than the minimum wage with tips, a policy called tip credit. And he basically, so this is kind of why this guy's a fucking loon here. So, well, okay, bear with me here. He says, a lot of my employees are young. They're going to school, and they use this as flexible work hours to earn up to $20, $25, $28 an hour. It gives them the ability to work and stay in school. But if I lose the tip credit, that will increase my labor costs 100%. And then he says, if we can still have a reduced tip credit, we use the tips to offset it. Our girls are making more than that now. And what the hidden, what he's trying to say there is basically he needs this corporate subsidy to keep selling chicken wings. And that's basically what a tip credit is. It allows him to pay his servers $3, $4 under the minimum wage, and then it's the rest of their wages subsidized through a third party, which would be the people who are eating in the establishment. And then he goes on to say, the big problem is you've got increased cost in FICA insurance, unemployment insurance, our medical insurance, all that continues to go up, as well as wages. Wait, what? Huh? I'm going to break down the flat wages in restaurants in just 1 second. But what fucking wages is this fucking guy talking about? Increased wages for who? Servers? Line cooks? Hosts? Huh? What? Yeah, pal. I'm sure that 4 cents the state made you dish out per hour to each server will ultimately bury your business. I mean, even if you go to $15 an hour, you're just going to cut the floor faster. I can only imagine you're thinking deeply about this payroll cost while you deposit money into your daughter's college fund accounts. This guy looked pretty old, so probably more just her weekly allowance so she can raise her kids. But as you saunter and waddle your fat ass into that SLK Mercedes 600, you have a little cry to that silk handkerchief, that one you impulsively bought on a small island near Mykonos. Once you realize that you have to pay out another 50 cents out per hour to those 5 line cooks. You stick out your finger. You don't want to know where you're sticking your finger. Anyway, you stick out your finger. A button needs to be pushed. Maybe it's proverbial, or maybe it's that emergency protocol you've been waiting to enact. Once you push this button, a process starts that flows money into an offshore account that will find its way into a lobbyist who will use it to distribute these funds throughout the Senate, Congress, and local chambers of commerce, offices affected by this socialist plague. But as this black plastic round button presses against the worn-out skin that has been inundated in nonstop paperwork, the reality of life kicks in. You just started your car, and it's time to head home. If only a button like that existed, you think? All these rising costs are going to kill my business, the owner decries. My unemployment is up. My insurance for the business is up. And all these rising wages are going to be the downfall of this restaurant. Oh, the humanity! Or lack thereof, really. But like a tree that falls into a forest with no one around, these words fall on deaf ears. But back in reality here, food service, like we discussed in episodes number 1 and number 2, has no career money in it at the hourly level. If you live at home, or you have your life subsidized by the government, or a boyfriend or a sugar daddy, probably like some of these girls at these Hooters do, or a daddy just in general, this could be the perfect job for you. And I don't mean working at Hooters, I just mean serving in general. But trust me, that could help too. But if this is your main source of income, you need to get out, and fast. Think of food service pay scale as that chocolate fountain that was at your prom for reasons you still can't understand. Yes, we're looking at you, Greg. You just couldn't stop at the dry ice machine or the celebrity band flanked by a liger, which you thought, okay, I like the direction Greg is taking this, but then on a whim, Greg decides to change the high-end catering menu you painstakingly worked through for 4 months to chicken wings. Damn it, Greg! Where was I? The food service pay scale chocolate fountain metaphor. Got it. Thanks, Klaus. Imagine the tippy top of this tall fountain is your CEO wages. How he gets paid is a case-to-case basis, but the better the business does, the better he does. We're talking bonuses in the millions. Again, the pay scale varies situation to situation. So that chocolate is going to bubble up, flow into that main tray, which would be the CEO, and then start dripping down, so on and so forth. And then that would all drizzle, from the top. The top fills up, drizzles to the next one, fills up, goes down, so on and so forth. So all the way to the bottom. Even the bottom fills up full of chocolate. The very, very bottom. Now, prior to 2008, that chocolate not only dropped to the bottom, even after the first 3 trays of strawberries, there was still enough chocolate being sucked back up to the top. But after the financial collapse in 2008, the game changed. Instead of this fountain drizzling to the bottom, it goes to the second to last tray, fills to the top ever so slightly, and then drip. Or if you like medieval references, the bottom-feeding young squire goes from getting scraps of steak to breadcrumbs and pea skins. So in order to keep this business afloat, the upper management teams that holds your hand looks you in the eye and exclaim that you're important. We care about you. We couldn't be us without you. All the while, they have literally stolen money from you. Oh, what's that? You don't believe me? How about average wages for servers in 2005? $29,000 to $33,000? And I don't really think everyone was really claiming all that money. What about after 2008? Oh, look at that. $22,000 to $24,000. Again, doubt anyone's claiming that money, but you're not making, prior to 2008 kind of money. And, one reason you see that big dip is bartenders aren't making $9 an hour anymore. Bussers aren't making $9 an hour anymore, or at very least minimum wage. And you do the math. You go from making $9, $8, $7.75 to $5, so you have $2.25 to, almost $3 to $4 taken away from you every 2 weeks for 40 hours a week for a whole year. That's going to add up to a lot of money, maybe around $8,000, maybe. But manager salaries are still the same. Again, it varies company to company, state to state. But prior to 2008 and after 2009, they've hovered in the upper 40s to mid 50,000s. So business is up for these restaurants, yet the wages are still the same. I think this guy's just delusional. Okay, let's get to the staff report.
In my hand, I hold the staff report.
So we're going to break down a few Supreme Court cases that came down the wire this week, plus a activist judge that's up to no good. So in the first case, we've got a good news, bad news outcome, and here's the good news. If you don't drink and drive, let alone drink, pass out, and drive, you have nothing to worry about. This decision doesn't affect you. But the bad news? If you're a drunk who can't handle or maintain his or her liquor, I suggest you don't pass out behind the wheel. By you driving on a road in Wisconsin, You are now consenting to having your blood drawn without your consent. So if you like your booze, you're also drinking away a sliver of your Fourth Amendment right. The decision had actually stated there is clearly a compelling need for a blood test of drunk driving suspects whose condition deprives officials of a reasonable opportunity to conduct a breath test. I believe it kind of went on to basically say, and these are my words, that, as I mentioned before, by you driving on the road in Wisconsin, you're kind of consenting to having your blood drawn if you're not able to give that consent. But I think the main reason for them giving the cops that kind of leeway is that it's overall a public safety issue. And given the fact of how fucking retarded people are when it comes to drinking and driving, it's hard to disagree with John Roberts there. What else we got here? The Supreme Court also came out this week and said it is going to decide future DACA protections for undocumented immigrants. Well, this is well overdue. The only reason DACA exists is because Obama couldn't push this protection through a Republican House and Senate. So he signed it into law via executive order. I can see Obama in the proverbial political huddle calling the play. Okay, Greg, here's the play. We can't run it up the gut. Their pass protection schemes are impenetrable, and it's impossible to create separation from these cornerbacks. So here's the play. Trips right, 34 Lightning, Pickles, Y, Razor, X, end around, reverse sweep. And that's the key, Greg. We're running this around the Congress. Ready? Break! And what's even more maddening than this president pushing this through executive order is not one Republican attorney general deciding not to sue the Obama administration for doing that. Trump signs one executive order and half the country sues numerous times. But that's a non-issue. It's in the past. What we now know is any president that attempts to govern with the pen and not Congress will find these executive orders getting kicked through the courts and eventually landing on the Supreme Court of the United States front door. And this also touches on a subject in the courts that needs to be rectified. We have all these federal activist judges on the bench not ruling impartially, but with their establishment biases or bleeding liberal hearts. These federal judges' power on national injunctions need to be curbed. Why is some rando judge in some bumfuck America town creating an injunction that has the power to block a law nationally? It makes no sense. The Supreme Court should not only rescind DACA, but they should neuter these activist judges' powers or kick them off the bench. I got it. You send them to the border and let them adjudicate illegal immigrants. I mean, that's who they're trying to help anyway. Go fuck yourself, Article 3. And then speaking of activist judges, the Trump administration was barred from building in 4 more areas of the Southwest because a judge expands area where the border wall is building is barred. So another Obama stooge appointed judge using the guise of the power of the purse and congressional spending. I still think, I still think congregate can work here. Okay, I digress. As the reason for this injunction, on top of that, this judge has expanded the area the administration cannot build a wall. Good God, man. I don't remember 43's appointed judges stonewalling Obama like this over and over. I don't even remember Republican states' attorney generals fighting Obama through the courts like this. They didn't sue on DACA. And that, compared to what we see today, is just completely unacceptable. This is only a testament to how dirty and nasty Democrat political strategies have become. All over the media I hear, Republicans are racist. They want to kill your grandma. Muslim ban, we will sue. Trump looked at me with side eye. We must impeach. Yes, it's gotten to that point. This isn't even about doing the right thing for the country anymore. It's petty politics. I don't remember 43 treating Obama this way on 43's way out, or even really saying anything about him in general in his 8 years in presidency. Can you imagine the outcry if Bush didn't bother to tell Obama the Russians were meddling in our election? Or, as we kind of discussed earlier, Obama kind of already admitted that the Russians didn't have anything to do with the election. But I don't hear him, telling the media they're wrong. Or what do you think the fake news media would have done if they stumbled onto a story that showed an outgoing Republican White House administration unmasking incoming national security agents like Susan Rice, and I think I said that wrong. That would be National Security Council members like Susan Rice or even someone like Valerie Jarrett. How do you think the liberal media would respond to an FBI spying on an incoming Obama administration and sending one of its top cops out to an insurance policy that attaches Obama, the new POTUS at the time, to collusion with Russia? Or worse, what if the FBI goes into the Obama White House, kind of like what Comey did with Flynn? I don't want to get into that, because Comey was actually taking advantage of all the chaos that was going on with Trump, because that's how Trump manages. They're just different types of managers. You have guys like Obama. They manage, with a tight fist, and I don't know if he's being mean or not. They just have to be involved in everything. Some guys like Trump, they just have different styles, and some people have a fucking problem with that. But anyway, back to what I was saying. If we had a situation like this where a Republican, what was I saying? A Republican White House administration was unmasking Obama's National Security Council members, the media would have a field day. They'd tell you this is bigger than Watergate. And they'd be right. Pulitzer prizes, Nobel Peace Prizes, various other journalistic awards would be handed out, but not now. The media, the Democrats, and these activist judges have it out for you, me, the president, and his administration, and anyone else that supports him. This is a precedent they are going to regret setting, but they'll never acknowledge that. All right, and that's the staff report.
We're trying to get a feel for how people spend their day.
The staff reports.
All right, that's the podcast for this week. Just a quick reminder for everyone to hit the like button on our Ready Set Podcast Facebook page. Please subscribe to us on Mixcloud, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, not like it matters if you're listening on YouTube. And please leave us a review, a 5-star review, preferably, on Apple Podcasts. And thanks for listening, everyone. That's it for this week. I'm your host, Joe Persinger. This is your one-stop shop current events and politics podcast. If society is a joke, then we're just here for the first set. We'll see you next week, you fucks.
Thanks for listening to the Ready Set Podcast. Check us out next week, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter and look for us on our YouTube channel, Ready Set Podcast.